is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 14th of August, 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines. The Star, RUTO allies plot to scuttle UHURU Raila referendum. Daily Nation, River of Poison. And The Standard, how rich criminals buy police protection. Let's start here.
We continue the saga.
Yes.
Yes, and they should expect more police to be bought by criminals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the context of this is because the police went to Ali Punjani's house.
Yes.
And it is said that Ali Punjani had 19 administration police officers guarding his house.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that. After all, there was a GSU platoon that was guarding a fake gold in Kileleshwa.
Okay.
So-
But then isn't the problem that how can he have 19 GSU
Yes.
posted at his house
Yeah.
while they know full well that he is a criminal?
Now-
Or an alleged criminal, rather.
Now, you're asking the wrong person. That you should be asking Matiang'i.
How his people didn't know.
Yes.
I say we have a three-part criteria to break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves three questions. Is this headline topical or is it speculative? Is it repetitive or is it groundbreaking? And finally, is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
I think it's an interesting story. I think in the past we've said that if it's not politics, it's education.
Absolutely.
If it's not education, it's some food scandal.
Yes.
If
So
it's
now-
not that, it's maybe some drought
Yes.
or whatnot. And I
Yeah.
think now they've added on some gang,
Drug lord.
scandals, which I am liking. They're on the same final thought as
Toss
us.
it.
Absolutely.
We toss.
RUTO allies plot to scuttle Uhuru Raila referendum.
And why should they not? You see,
I
That-
thought there was one. Did you not say that?
and that's what he said, but I don't believe him. If you have to lock out the dynasties, that is Raila and Uhuru, you have to introduce your own referendum.
Yep.
And maybe we could have some wise words some wise words for William Ruto.
Okay.
You have some wise words.
I'm
saying
sensing.
Okay.
I think he should go take a little bit of BBI, punguza mzigo if at all he's not the owner, cook them up in a nice sufuria, in the hustler sufuria, the ones full
then-
of chicken.
And then create his own
and then create
proposal.
a nice broth.
So take the best of both
Yes.
and make something for himself. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that
Then
could
you have a referendum that's hustler referendum versus a dynasty referendum. Because can we say BBI is the dynasty referendum?
Oh yes,
Yeah, I think
oh
we
yes.
could, yeah.
But second of all, I think William Ruto should stand up to these dynasties and stop being nice and and diplomatic.
I think Miss K was saying that he was following the first law of power.
Yes, which is never outshine your master.
But is Uhuru Kenyatta really his master?
And that's the question I want you to answer. Because I do agree to you to some point.
Yeah.
When we voted for them, we did not vote for Uhuru Kenyatta
As
and his
president?
deputy,
Yes.
William Ruto. We voted for them as two persons occupying an office called the
Same office,
presidency.
yeah.
We voted for a team. We voted for a team. And therefore, if one is being played, the other one must come out and say, no, we had a deal, and this was a deal. And if it's not going to be the deal, then I'm going to forge my own path.
So I think what we're saying is that they're equals.
Yes.
But one is more equal than the other.
Uhuru Kenyatta,
Sounds like Animal Farm.
we can agree. You can agree Uhuru Kenyatta is a first amongst equals.
Yes.
Well, yes, we can.
But at the same time, we can also say that William Ruto is not a subordinate, to put it like
I
that.
agree. I think right now Ruto is taking a terrible back seat and there's a lot of action happening. I think he needs, I agree with you, I think he needs to stand up. He needs to
he needs to look at
mark his space.
Look them directly in the eye and say, what? I am going to forge my own path, whether you think it's subordination.
I
am
don't
the
think it's
deputy
in
president.
subordination. Even the Constitution acknowledges that should anything happen to the president,
Yeah.
the deputy president takes over for the
Space,
remainder
yeah.
of the term. That's why we don't have an election.
Absolutely.
There's a presumption of equality.
That is
Absolutely.
true.
Toss it.
We toss it, yes.
Daily Nation, River of Poison.
I love this headline. I love the picture that they put with it as well. I think this is fantastic. The nation has woken up.
It's working
They're
hard with its
getting something
headlines.
right, yeah.
It's a headline.
But doesn't this worry you that probably what you're consuming at home could be fueled or watered by affluent water? Or
So maybe
water
give
that
us
is
the
called
context
affluent.
by which what you
So
mean with that.
NTV ran a series yesterday, and the Nation too have
Covered
an
it as
article,
well,
yes,
yeah.
about affluence and poison put in our waters by factories and people in slums, and that flows downstream, and people downstream there use that water to
Plant,
plant
crops.
and
Yeah.
irrigate their crops.
And then we then Nairobi
We then eat
consume
them.
And then
those
you
crops.
and you wonder why people are getting cancer.
Well,
Yeah.
I say it's a good study because I think they tracked scientists who took samples from 10 points in the river, starting from its beginning point
Yeah.
all the way down to where it comes out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And what they found was that there's a lot of lead in our waters, there's a lot of copper in our waters, there's cyanide in our waters,
Yes.
including other unmentionables.
I'm
Yes.
realizing now that there's
Oh,
nothing
wow.
safe to eat in this country. Honey is not safe.
Yeah.
Sugar is not safe.
Yeah.
Maize is not safe.
Water is not safe.
I
So,
mean,
so just grow your own
But
food.
I think that this is our winning headline, and I like the
I
story
agree.
because it lifts the veil of ignorance.
most
And
definitely.
it is definitely verified gossip. They have
Yes.
scientific fact
That
to
is
back
true.
it.
Absolutely.
I said
Fantastic.
the Daily Nation gives us our winning headline. On to our next segment, the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country.
Yeah.
Just like the headlines, we have a three-part criteria that we use to break them down for you. We ask ourselves, is the cartoon... Why are you looking at it like that? You've made me pause.
No, I just liked it.
Okay. Is the cartoon humorous or is it dry?
Yeah.
Is it satirical or is it pessimistic? And finally, is it effective or just plain lazy?
Yes.
There's a bit of humor here for
Oh.
2M.
Ozone. Let me describe it before I analyze it. The tall president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, holding up beautiful brand new Kigali Arena,
Yeah.
or arena, we will call
On a
it.
platter even.
Yes, and then the
Below him.
relatively shorter head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, holding up toilet paper,
That says.
branded 5 new stadiums, right? And
What is
Ozone
Uhuru
is...
saying?
No, this is the caption from Ozone. You are making us look bad.
Yeah.
Now,
And there's a click there.
there's a click there. And context of this is there's a brand new arena built in Kigali, built in 6 months. And I'm telling you guys,
State of the art.
state of the art, right? And I think I do volleyball,
Basketball,
basketball,
yeah.
I hear golf.
No, that's true. But then, of course, the context below is that Uhuru and Ruto promised us 5 new
In
stadiums.
fact, they
Still
said,
waiting.
In fact, they said 9.
And then, where did the 4 go?
I know, they said, no, it's not going to be 5, it's going to be 9.
And we are yet to see any of them.
No,
I think that is
we are fighting corruption.
Yes, okay. So I think this is a fantastic cartoon, and I agree with Ozone's statement. Kigali is making us look bad. Kagame is making us look very
It's
bad.
making us look bad.
Yeah.
I say we put it in the parking bay. It is hilarious,
Yeah.
but let's put it in the parking bay. Let's see what else is out there. Let's see what his twin has.
Oh, this is funny. Caricature of Raila Odinga, with his pants on fire. And
Smoking away.
and smoking away, but he's doing thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right. And next to him is William Ruto. He's pocketing with his yellow tie, and there's a jiko that is about to burn him.
But it looks like a chair.
It's a chair, but
Yeah.
it's a hot
It's a
seat,
Yes, a hot seat, yeah.
It's a hot seat.
right? And Uhuru is sweating because of the hot seat. So were they both sitting on this?
No, I think we know that Raila once sat on that chair.
Yes, and now he got burned by it.
Yes.
And
And Ruto
Ruto's
is getting
about
coerced
to
to
sit.
sit in that chair.
Absolutely.
But the point is that Raila is telling him,
It's
"Sit,
okay,
it's
just
all right,
it's okay,
just
it's
sit."
okay. Just
but,
do it.
But then, what is Raila wearing? What color tie?
A red tie,
What's Uhuru wearing?
a red tie,
What's Ruto wearing?
a yellow tie.
But the most important part is the Mao effect. And I think you mentioned this too. What is the Mao effect?
The Mao effect is Raila had undergone it, and it burnt him.
Yeah.
It was 2012, and then he wanted people from Mao chased away.
Yeah.
But William Ruto came to their aid, and nobody was chased. But
This
now
time.
William Ruto is deputy president,
Yeah.
and the Minister of Environment is about to carry out
Some
evictions, right? And now William Ruto is expected to support the government that he works for and is second in command.
But also he has to support his people.
Absolutely, he's in a catch-22.
And
Yeah.
noting that some Kipsigis elders went to see Raila to ask Raila to
Yes.
speak to the president on their behalf, I found that very strange.
Yes,
Parking
absolutely.
bay while we look at Gado.
And then finally, Gado. I hope today his recess has ended.
Oh,
You see now, Gado went from international cartoons. Now he's taken us into sports. So Tuam, you're going to have to guide us here.
it's okay. I like this. All right. It's a drawing of
Tattered shoes.
Football boots.
Harambee Stars.
And the wearer is a small guy. He's a FKF CEO. It's called Mwendwa.
Yeah.
All right. Out goes a guy called Minge. He was Harambee Stars coach. And the caption there that Mwenda is talking is, "I'll be appointing his replacement soon." Now,
Let me ask you, Tuam, is this cartoon funny?
I'm sensing there's supposed to be some funniness because if you look at Mwendwa, his eyes look like really psycho.
You see, these are smelly shoes. They have snakes coming all over.
So what is that saying about the state of the Harambee Stars?
It's in tatters.
All right.
It's in tatters. So whoever is going to replace him, this Mina guy, nothing's going to do.
Toss it.
Thank you.
It's the twins, Ozone versus Dula.
Absolutely.
And
I say we go with
Ozone.
Ozone. I'm very confused, as I've said this almost 3 times in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He's growing on us like a leech. I don't know what to do.
But again, he takes 2 steps forward, 5 steps back.
Yeah,
let her say who's the winning cartoon.
Please, TJ, the honor goes to you today.
Say.
Louder. I don't think we can barely hear you.
And the winning cartoon goes to Ozone of the Star.
Louder.
Ozone, you have the winning cartoon today.
What is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. Inspired by a book entitled The Untouchables, by Oscar Farley and a guy called
Elliot Ness.
Yes.
That was a cop, yeah?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Do you give us some?
So yes, Untouchables by Elliot Ness and Oscar Farley.
Yeah.
So Elliot Ness is the subject of this book, but it was written in conjunction with Oscar Farley.
Yeah.
And the subtitle of this book is the thrilling story of the handful of incorruptible men who smashed the bootleg empire of Scarface Al Capone.
Okay.
So this book was written in 1957,
Yeah. Yes.
but there's also a corresponding movie that was released in 87, which I would suggest that everybody goes to watch. It's available on Netflix.
Yes.
So this is an autobiography detailing the experience of the federal agents famous for bringing down Al Capone during the Prohibition era.
Yes.
So the Prohibition era in America, if nobody knows, lasted from 1920 to 1933.
Yeah.
And it was part of the 18th Amendment. And it said that there was a ban on the manufacturing, storage, transportation, sale, and possession of alcohol.
Yes.
But not on the consumption.
But not on the consumption of alcohol, which I thought was the most interesting loophole.
Yes.
So the reason that the Prohibition era came about was because of several issues.
Yeah.
Morality being one of them. So you had a lot of Christians who said that
if you take out the alcohol, then we'll have nicer people and less gangs.
Exactly.
Yes.
There was also a need to save grains during the wartime, and a lot of grains were used for the creation of alcohol.
Yes.
And then there was a lot of corruption.
Yes.
So a lot of people thought that alcohol was the root of all evil.
Yes.
And so they actually said, this was one of the campaign slogans they had, every day will be Sunday when the town goes dry.
Oh.
In fact,
every day.
Is it a saying that's from the Prohibition era, or
Yes,
is
it
it
is.
from? No, I'm saying from, what are they called? Women's Guild. Lips that have touched alcohol shall not touch mine.
They had so many of those little sayings. So what happened is that this man, Elliot Ness, he was a federal agent from the Treasury Bureau.
Yes.
And he put together this team of people called the Untouchables.
Right.
And they were considered untouchable because they did not take bribery.
Yes.
They were very honest, and they themselves did not drink.
Yes.
So it was believed that if you got together this group of untouchable men, they would be able to take down Al Capone.
Yes.
But the question is, why Al Capone?
Yes.
So he was probably one of the biggest sellers of alcohol during the Prohibition era.
Yes.
So he believed that because the government was denying people their right to alcohol, and the people really, really wanted to drink.
Yes, as much as they could.
As much as they could, exactly.
Yeah.
He said, let me be the one to provide them with alcohol. So he ended up turning the state into an enemy. So he became the good person. But what happened is, as they tried to get him, they realized that he had so much wealth and so much power.
Yes.
He had police in his pocket, he had judges in his pockets, he had very wealthy and powerful people in his pockets.
Yeah.
They could not get any evidence against him.
Absolutely.
So what they decided is that they found these mobsters lived very lavish lives,
Yes.
but they never filed tax returns.
Yeah.
So what they decided is that they would convict them on tax evasion,
Yes.
because that did not require any hard evidence
Correct.
or any hard testimony.
Yes.
And it's true. I think a little bit earlier, 1927 specifically, there had been a Supreme Court decision, United States versus Sullivan.
Yeah.
And Sullivan was a bootlegger, so the seller of
Alcohol,
low-key
yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah.
And what he had done was that he wanted to use the Fifth Amendment, which had a privilege against self-incrimination, to protect himself from being tried for not filing taxes for his illegal activities.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court found that just because you are a criminal doesn't mean you're protected from filing tax. Whoever you are, you file tax on all places where you get income from.
Legal or illegal.
Legal or illegal. So the president of the time was President Hoover.
Yeah.
And what he decided was that he instructed the Secretary of Treasury
Yeah.
that he said, I want Capone.
Yes.
And I want you to get Capone because of this case. Because now we can get him. Because they couldn't get him. Al Capone was very violent.
On his criminal
Absolutely.
On his
activities.
criminal activities of murder, racketeering, all these other things, gambling, they couldn't get him on that, but they could pin him down on tax evasion.
Yes.
And that's how you have Elliot Ness and the team of people from the Treasury Department
Yes.
going after a gang leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I really want to equate this prohibition era to this fancy fight against corruption that we have in this country, and also the betting
scandals,
the betting crackdown.
I think you've said in the past that we're having a moral war.
Yeah, we have this is precisely the reason. When religious organizations come to tell the state, if you take out alcohol, we will stop crime, we'll stop abortion, we'll stop corruption, and then we will prosper. Now look, if that was the intention, then the result of prohibition was failure. And it was failure because it did not just, the fight against corruption did not just increase. I mean, corruption did not just increase, and organized crime did not just increase. The amount of tax revenue that the government got then, it actually reduced, and government found itself spending more. Now, this is the same situation you're having in this country. You're having corruption, the fight against corruption, and this might sound a little bit crazy, but the crackdown on corruption is the reason why the economy is going down. Look, if Kinoti if Kinoti and Co show up at KRA offices or any other office, there's no procurement officer in government who's going to sign, whatever it is to release some money. What that is going to cause is this: because government is the biggest consumer of goods and services in this country, people are going to suffer because government is not spending. Services that were rendered by private sector are not going to be paid for. Now, when you find people are complaining because money is not being spent, then the only person you can raise fingers to is the brotherhood of law.
And I think the interesting comparison that we can make in this is that with Capone, he found this vacuum that the government had created, and that's why he was able to make the government the aggressor in the eyes of the public. And I think that if you take the war on corruption as the same thing, right now the government is about to, or has already created this vacuum whereby corruption has become a commodity to sell. Right? There is no access to it, and therefore the demand has gone sky high.
Absolutely.
And so it's very interesting how that is going to turn.
But I do have to ask this. We always talk about things we call colonial opportunities. A period in time when you have resources that are available that were not previously available. And I have to say this, that if you're going to shut down an area and call it and say that we're not going to have access to alcohol, but we're still going to allow you to drink it. I'll be an enterprising immigrant or a minority if I take up that opportunity and use it as a way to grow myself and my family.
I think you're talking about the crooked ladder theory.
Yes, and it's where immigrants or members of minority groups use organized crime as a vehicle of upward mobility. So they advance themselves from the lower classes to the upper to middle classes, and they get the power and the respectability and the privilege that comes to the upper classes by using these social crooked things that are not accessible,
and not because
to them.
they want to, but because they have to. They have been exiled, and we can compare that to Escobar yesterday, who went to Congress and was dismissed because he was not part of the dynasties of Colombia.
He was not wearing a tie.
He was not wearing a tie.
So I don't know if you want to say that it's wrong or bad, because there is a group of people who look at that upward mobility and that route as a viable route. In fact, the only route that is available to them for them to have social mobility.
However, there is always a tipping point. There's upward trajectory, but then it always falls down. And the tipping point for this guy was in 1929. It was called the Valentine Massacre. So what happened is in Chicago, Capone was constantly fighting. It was his group against Bugsy Moran. They were the bootleggers of the time. So in 1929, Capone decided that he wanted to take down some of Moran's guys. So they went and they dressed up as police and shot down 7 of Moran's men. And the photos shocked the public so much, and it damaged Capone's reputation so much that the public ended up turning against him. So on one hand, where he had been this person who was giving the public what they wanted to drink, right? Now he became this villain and he became an aggressor, and it in the end helped the government in their fight against him.
I also have to say something that's interesting about this particular book. This particular book focuses on a law enforcement officer. Yesterday in our book we were focusing on the, if I could call it, the criminal, so the one side. And I say that we have to have, there's this like nemesis versus hero thing that's going on here, where they raise the profile of Elliot Ness to this brilliant, awesome, amazing officer who was unscrupulous, who was incorruptible, who was glorious, who was untouchable. So I find it very interesting that contrast between light and dark, good and evil.
Let me tell you, when you watch this movie, The Untouchables, there's a scene where Elliot Ness receives intelligence from Jimmy Malone. And Jimmy Malone says, there's a shipment coming in from the border of Canada, right? And we're going to catch Al Capone right there. And then Elliot Ness asks Jimmy Malone, so how did you know? How do you get that kind of information? How do you get that kind of intelligence? Do you know what he responds?
What did he say?
He reads, if you want to keep a secret for so long, don't tell your boss.
Are you saying something? I noticed. As I wind down this episode, I have one fun fact about Al Capone that we don't know about.
Yes.
Did you know that as we talked about history, violence from the boss?
Just pack your bags, huh?
Pack your bags, please, and leave promptly after this. Don't look back. But I do have a fun fact about Al Capone. Yes, he was violent. Yes, he was enemy number one. But as a man of the people, he had one thing that I think that I like about him.
Yes.
I know it's very hard to say, but he was an equal opportunity employer and corrupter.
Yeah.
He did not see color, and because he did not see color, he had like the biggest spread of clubs in Chicago, and he owned them all. And one thing that he did was that he employed only black people to play at his club.
Absolutely.
Specifically, black people who played one genre of music.
Which is?
Jazz.
Yes.
In fact, it grew up under him. He's like the godfather of jazz, if I could call him that.
And jazz was called jazz.
Yes.
Because they believed it came from the bush.
From the bushes, yeah.
So
Created by Africans, yes.
Created by Africans, and it belonged in the bush. But because Al Capone gave it this nice ambient
Italian,
genre,
yeah.
it became,
And space, an opportunity,
space.
a place where they could just share it.
Yeah, it became jazz.
This is Winning Headlines. Today we had a winning headline from the Daily Nation and a winning cartoon from The Star. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we are on your TV screens. Take a moment to search for us. We are on Pang, Free to Air, Star Times, and Go TV. Join us this week. We're doing gangs, mafia, violence, craziness. I don't know if I can survive until the end of the week. My week hurt. But join us this week. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.